Doesn't it seem like the people who always protect everybody else always ends up being the ones who need protection the most? The ones who carry everybody else's burdens, say all the right prayers, fixes everybody's mess, but somehow, some way forget to cover themselves. And that person in this story is Miss Lila Mae, and in her little Mississippi town, her name meant power. Miss Lila was one of the women everybody knew about, but nobody really know actually. You might have passed her in the grocery store and never guessed that she did what she did because she was just a cute little lady. But if you asked around, especially late at night, you hear all kinds of stories. They say she could stop a storm, heal the sick, and send a man back home just by writing his name on a brown paper bag. She was a root worker, and a good one. Folks came from 3 towns over just to get a jar, a charm, or even just a simple prayer from her. She lived in a weathered old house at the edge of town, right past the railroad tracks. The porch leaned a little to one side, and there was always smoke rising from her chimney, even in the summer. Inside smelled like herbs, oils, and a little bit of tobacco. Her altar sat in the corner, candles, honey jars, a Bible so worn the cover had turned gray, and the photos of her ancestors were watching over everything. Every morning before the sun came up, Lila would light a candle, pour her coffee, and she talked to her spirits. She'd start her day praying over someone else's situation before even saying words for herself. But that was her life, helping, healing, hexing, and fixing. It gave her purpose, but it also kept her tied to everybody else's problems, but not her own. Hey y'all, I'm Yaya. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. And in this video, I want all of my spiritual service people to listen up. No matter what you do, if you prep candles for people, if you give readings, if you make waist beads, if you're a natural spiritual hairdresser, whatever type of spiritual service you do, let this video be a warning towards you to make sure you take care of yourself and don't neglect yourself because you're so passionate about helping others. I know it makes you feel good and you feel like, you know what, their problems are urgent, mine can wait. I already know what to do. Still tend to yourself, okay? Because at first with Miss Lila, everything she touched worked. Candles burned clean, prayers got answered. People would call her crying saying, Miss Lila, I don't know what you did, but everything is working out. This happened, this cleared up, these people left me alone. And she would just smile and say, because she heard it 100 times, it wasn't me, baby, it was the spirits. Thank the spirits. Lead them a piece of fruit at the crossroads. But after a while, she started noticing something. Her own peace didn't feel the same. She'd wake up tired, feeling a little heavy and sluggish. Her candles started flickering funny, like they were burning against some type of invisible wind. The air in her house got thick, almost like a little sticky and moldy. Her cat stopped sleeping near her altar. She brushed it off at first. She told herself it was just fatigue, or maybe she just needed a day off, but she hadn't taken a rest day in years. You see, doing protection work takes a lot of energy, real energy. When you stand between somebody and what's coming for them, you take on some of that hit to get it off of them. That's why most seasoned workers cleanse themselves after each job. But Lila didn't have time for all that. She was too busy being everybody else's shield. So she was just like, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. Then came the client that changed everything. Now we'll call her Janice. She was pretty polite, soft-spoken, the kind of woman who made you guess her intentions, like who would go after her, who would bother her. She showed up on a rainy Thursday, clutching her purse like something inside was alive. She told Lila she'd been cursed and somebody was jealous and trying to ruin her life. I'm sure she heard that before. She said that story was very familiar. Lila had heard it about 100 times, but something about Janice's eyes didn't sit right. They didn't look scared or paranoid. They looked curious, almost amused by her having to be in this situation. Lila told her to sit down and they started to do her work. She made a protection jar mixed with soap, red brick dust, black candle wax, and all her other herbs. But when she sealed the jar, she heard the glass pop. It wasn't like an explosion, but not a break, just a soft crack, like something invisible had tapped it or she slammed it against the table too hard. It startled her, but she kept her composure. She didn't want to scare Janice. After the work, Janice thanked her, she left her payment, and she went on about her day. So this was a usual work session for Miss Lila Mae. Nothing seemed off. It's just, she knows Janice was one of those clients that piqued her interest. She was a little different. But that night, Miss May's dreams turned a little strange, stranger than usual. She dreamed of her house filling with smoke. In the dream, she was praying, but her voice didn't make a sound. And behind her reflection in the mirror, there was something else standing a little too still. When she woke up, she felt drained, like she hadn't slept all day. The next day, everything in her house felt off. She just didn't feel comfortable in her own home. Her candles burned black. The water in her ancestors' glass turned murky overnight. And when she opened up her Bible, the pages fluttered. Even though the windows were closed, there was no wind passing by. And that's when she knew something wasn't right. She tried to fix it the way she fixes everything else. She cleansed her altar. She mopped her floors with Florida water that you can get from BlaqueWitchYaya.com. And she prayed. But every time she tried to cleanse herself, her own body, something pushed back. The bath water would sting her skin like it was too hot all of a sudden. Or when she stood up in the shower, she started to feel dizzy halfway through. She realized this just wasn't exhaustion. She had taken on something dark, something that wasn't hers. A few days later, she called someone that she trusted and someone that she learned from, her friend and her mentor, Mother Dorothy, we'll call her. So Dorothy was what people call like one of those old school workers. She wore white every day, carried her Bible like a weapon, and she didn't play with spirits that she didn't know. She ain't tried none of that new age stuff. She just stuck to what she knew. When Dorothy came in, she didn't even say hello. She walked in and she looked around and said, "Child, this house sure feel wrong. You've been working too much." She immediately knew what was going on. So Lila began to explain everything, the dreams, the bad candles, that weird client. Dorothy listened quietly, then she shook her head and said, "That woman didn't come here to be helped. She came to test you. You've been protecting everybody else but yourself, and your spirits are tired. Spirits need a break too. They can't fight for you if you don't feed them." And she looked over at her altar and seen that it looked a little bit unkept. She didn't see a fresh bowl of fruit. She didn't see a fresh meal like she usually does. So she handed Lila a white candle and a small bottle of Florida water. She said, "You're going to take a bath tonight. And you're going to pray Psalms 51. No clients for a week. No candles for nobody else but yourself." And Lila Mae is like, "But I have to make a bag for Charles while he worked them rolls at night. I have to burn a fresh candle for the Robbins family. Jeanette, you know she going to stop by for her reading. And Trina just had a baby. I have to bless the baby on Sunday. And like, who else is going to do that?" And Dorothy is like, "Suck it up, Buttercup. Who going to do all that if you bleed yourself dry?" And she also asks, what makes their problems take priority? What's so special about their problems? Are you too good to have problems? She realized like she can't keep protecting everybody else, like she doesn't have to protect and cater to herself. So once Dorothy gave her all the instructions, she began talking her ish. She like, "Girl, I'm surprised your spirits didn't stop that heifer at the door. Since when you let in demons like that?" She done left her shitty energy all over this place. And so Dorothy is like, "Let me get my stuff up before that thing attached to me." But that night, Lila did as she was told. She poured her bath, prayed Psalms 51, and poured the water over her head. But instead of feeling cleansed, she felt burned. The water turned dark at her feet, almost black. She could hear whispering in the corner of the room, like someone was whispering her name over and over, like something was mocking her. But she knew if you ever hear your name being called and you are by yourself, do not reply out loud. That's for y'all too. If you hear someone whisper your name and you know nobody in the house, don't say, "Yes, who is it?" Because that's inviting the spirit in to continue talking. So just ignore it. But when she ran back to her altar, every candle had gone out. Her mirror had cracked down straight down the middle, splitting her reflection in half. The next morning, her phone started ringing. Clients started saying, "Oh, my charms start working. I lost this crystal." Their candles wouldn't stay lit. Their luck seemed to flip. One woman even accused Lila of cursing her by mistake. She's like, "I don't know what you got mixed up, but now everything is worse." It was like everything she built had turned against her overnight. For days, she tried to fight it. More cleansings, more prayers, more baths. but nothing stuck. Her house got colder, the shadows felt heavier, and she stopped sleeping. Some nights she sit by her altar with her Bible open, watching the door, afraid something else would walk through. Then one night, she heard 3 knocks on her porch. Slow, even knocks. She opened the door, and there was a dead blackbird lying right in the center of her welcome mat. When she looked across the road, she saw Janice standing there, smiling. And then she turned and walked into the darkness. And then she was looking at her ceiling. She was having a dream. She woke up, but she took that dream as a warning. That just wasn't a funny dream. After that, Lila shut everything down. She stopped seeing clients, stopped answering her phone. She focused on rebuilding herself. She said, no more distractions. I'm about to be serious. The only person she let in was Dorothy, who came by to help her pray and remind her of the old ways, the rest, offerings, gratitude. Appreciate the silence. Yes, it's nice to have your phone ringing and you're busy, but it's also appreciate the times when no one is blowing up your phone. When Lila finally asked, like, okay, Dorothy, what happened? She told her something she could never forget. She said, protection ain't what you sell, baby. It's what you live. You can't pour blessed water from a dirty cup. I don't know why I'm giving her that accent, but I feel like she sounds like that. And that stuck with her. And as time passed, Miss Lila slowly started to feel like herself again. The heaviness lifted little by little. Her altar candles burned steady again, slowly lightening up after each candle. She sit there some mornings with her coffee and whisper thank you, not to ask for anything, but she simply wanted to thank her spirits for giving her the signals that she needed to slow down. And she started to feel like she had her light back. She had that old spark back, but not the same one as before. Her hands still worked the roots. Her voice still carried power, but now it was quieter, more grounded. She realized that all that time she'd been busy protecting other people, she had forgotten that she was one of God's children too. She deserved to be protected too. Yes, it's nice to help out her clients, but she's a client to herself as well. And speaking of the clients, they eventually started calling again, slowly but surely. Folks heard she was back to work and they lined up just like before. Same problem, same depression, but this time there was a different solution, a different approach. So one afternoon, a young lady came by asking for a protection jar. Lila listened to her story, the heartbreak, the fear, the confusion, the worry that someone was going to harm her family, that someone was going to stop her blessings. And she said something that surprised even herself. Instead of listening to her problems and started preparing a jar as she spoke, adding in the ingredients that she needed, she said, I'll show you how to do it. I'm not going to do this for you, but take some of this, put it in your purse, take this jar. And the girl looked confused at first while Lila's handing her all of the ingredients. And she taught her how to pray on her own, how to use her own name as power, how to speak her intentions, and how to cleanse before even sealing the jar. And when that girl left, she felt like something in her spirit unclenched, like a door had finally opened. That became her new way. People just didn't come to her for help anymore. They came to her to learn. So most of the time she would just have one-time clients. Instead of just making the mojo bag and handing it off, she said, I'm adding this in here because this is for this. I'm adding this in here, this is for this. And I'm not going to tie it up because now you can add some stuff to it too. She became a teacher, which relieved some of the pressure off of herself and instilled power in her clients for them to keep the work going. And funny enough, the more she shared, the more her blessings flowed back to her. You would think people would be like, okay, well, I don't need you no more, but new clients began to come, and sometimes they just wanted to sit and learn. So today, her home is still open for readings and small workings and now teachings, but on Thursdays, the special day where she let the wrong person in, she decided there would be no candles, no clients, no phone calls, just silence. Coffee, some soft gospel music playing in the back, and the folks who passed by her porch would still see that one candle burning in the background and the smoke slowly coming from her chimney, but they knew Thursdays don't even step on her property. And they didn't take her silence as a cry for help. It was a light of peace. They knew she was charging up. And it was a reminder to them that even the strongest workers needed to refill their own cup. Because Miss Lila finally learned that protection isn't something you sell or pray over, it's something that you live and practice, one Thursday at a time. Stories like this feel a little different because they're just not about magic. They're simply about boundaries that we need to have in everyday life. And spiritual burnout is real. You can't keep giving and giving, pouring into people, protecting them, praying for them, and not protect your own energy. It's not self-gain. It's not selfish. You're not having some type of secret advantage because you're doing work on yourself. You're doing it because you deserve it. Every spell, every prayer, every bit of advice is an exchange. And if you keep trading your light for other people's darkness, eventually the scales will tip. So whether you do spiritual work or the friend everybody runs to for advice, for a listening ear, for money, whatever, you're not supposed to save everybody. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is say no. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. All of my spiritual workers, or if you're just a reliable friend or family member, let me know how you had to set boundaries. How did people react? How did you understand that no is the safe way out sometimes? How did you stop people from draining you? Let's have a conversation down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. And like I always say, as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul. Until next time, you guys, Ashe.